Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast. It has been a hot minute since we have done this. And you're sitting there thinking, whose voice was that said hi back? And we will get there. But first, I have something from Alyssa for you all.
Hey everyone, it's Alyssa with some news that I've got to share with you all. So, as a lot of you know, I found out over the summer that I am pregnant, and I am so thrilled. I cannot wait for my sweet baby girl to arrive this February, but pregnancy has been exhausting, especially factoring in working and teaching full-time on top of just existing while pregnant. So I have unfortunately had to make the really difficult decision to take a step back from the podcast for the foreseeable future. You all know that I love Heartstopper and I love talking to Ashley about this show that we all love. But if I'm being honest right now, I just simply do not have the energy or capacity to give to this podcast that I know that you all deserve. And so for that reason, I will be stepping away. I will not be gone forever. I definitely will be back in some capacity. I already told Ashley I have at least one thing that I want to appear as a guest for season 3. And I am so excited to see what Ashley continues to do with the podcast. I'm sure she's going to be telling you all very soon about her plans. But I can't wait to be along for the ride as a listener with you all as the podcast jumps into their season 3 coverage. Thank you all so much for all of your love and the support that you continue to show to the podcast and to me and Ashley. It really means the world to me, and hopefully we can still chat soon.
So obviously I am so sad not to have my usual partner in crime along for every episode this season, but as they said, they're not going to be gone forever. They're going to be in and out guesting here and there, so no worries. We're still going to hear Alyssa's voice. And in the meantime, I'm going to try and keep the vibe of the podcast pretty similar. So I have a dear friend whose Heartstopper knowledge matches my proverbial freak, if you will. And I was very lucky that he has agreed to join and help me get through this season. So everybody say hello to Adam. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me on. I am super pumped to, talk all things Heartstopper with you. Like last time we saw each other in person, that's basically what we did. So it's nice that we're actually recording this. But yeah, I'm super pumped for this, super excited.
Thank you so much. I was obviously freaking out. And then we had just recorded that Patreon episode that we did together. Right around the time when Alyssa came to me with the announcement and let me know. And so I was like freaking out and I was like, you know what though? Me and Adam, we gave good podcast. He knows all the stuff. I don't have to like explain the comics or anything. Plus, like, obviously I've said this 100 times to you, but like I could listen to you talk for forever. So it's lovely to have your voice to listen to throughout these episodes as well. You can hear it. Adam is not from the U.S., so there will be no more lingering questions at the end of the episodes because we'll have an expert here to explain it all to me like I'm 5.
All things British, yeah. But no, it's super fun. And I will say, obviously, on top of that, there might be a few like pronunciations of things that I say slightly differently from Americans. I don't say book, I say book, and like certain things like that. But you know, we'll just roll with it. We'll have some fun. Maybe we'll throw some subtitles in there. Who knows? But no, honestly, like that's a big thing for me, and kind of in our Patreon episode, for those of you that listened, and obviously those who may not have, like, hello, I'm Adam, obviously from the northeast of England, and there's reference to that, which obviously when we get to the kind of the final episode, I'll definitely make a point of talking about that, because damn, there's something that they missed out in that final episode, which broke my heart a little bit. But just a little brief overview. Obviously, I've been from UK all my life. I live in New York now, but this accent's very northeastern. And yeah, like a lot of this show just obviously hits true with like a lot of the references. Just they're speaking my language essentially. For all that they're speaking English, they're speaking my language, if that makes sense.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of it sits true with me like that. So yeah, like I am super excited to talk about this show. I always am. And I'm just super pumped to speak about this season in particular because this season,
Woo!
man.
So
Oh
good.
boy. Yep.
Yes. So I think we covered it on the Patreon episode, but let's go ahead and talk about kind of like your Heartstopper origin for the masses. Like, how'd you find it? When'd you get hooked? All that.
Yeah, of course. So it's interesting because I'd never heard of the graphic novel. Like before the show, I'd never heard of it, never at all. And it's so weird because it's so intrinsically British, and yet so like Alice Oseman started writing them so close to me, obviously in the city of Durham when she went to Durham University, which is my home city. But I didn't know anything about it, nothing about it at all. And then I heard about the show, obviously coming onto Netflix, and then my husband actually watched it before me. And he was like, oh, I think you should watch it. It's like really cute. It's very British. There's like a lot of references that you would probably love and get more than me. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, again, I was just like, oh, like I'll check it out, whatever. Like a little bit ambivalent towards it, but I was like, I'll check it out, whatever. And then, oh, sweet Jesus. From episode 1, I was like, okay, well, I'm fully in, like immediately. And it's all the little things for me. It's just like, from like seeing the school uniforms to the way they have registration class before they go to other classes, like the way they sit in their classes, like the way the school looks, like all of this. And, those of you probably don't know, those of you that are listening, but like I sent Ashley a picture of myself when I very first started school, and like my uniform, like I have the blazer, I have the shirt, I have the big tie, and I look so young there. And obviously Nick and Charlie are so young in season 1, but that was my experience. Like that was me. Like that was exactly the same. Hearing them say things like, "Oh, we're going to go for a cheeky Nando's," like that's my lingo. So like I get that. So watching this as a British person, like it does hit differently, but in the best ways. And again, like Ashley and I had this conversation, but for me, the thing that pulls me towards the show so much is I'm living vicariously through, Nick and Charlie, because I didn't get to have that experience as a young, closeted gay kid at that age in school. Very different time. I didn't get to have the experience that they have. And obviously Charlie does go through a lot of trauma with being bullied and everything like that during his time. For me, it was just more like introvert where nobody knew anything about me because I knew like I didn't have the space and, the support there, I guess, in a school environment. Now it's very, very different, but at the time, very much not. So I get to watch them and like live that life that I kind of missed out on a little bit. But in the best ways, it's fun and it's sweet. And yeah, it just hits me on a different level. So those little references to me, they may be crumbs to some people, but to me, they're a whole meal. And that's what I love about it,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I did almost die when you sent me the photo of you in your uniform. I was like, oh, it's too cute. I'm going to die.
I was a little nipper then. I was tiny.
So tiny. Yeah. But yeah, for me, I think, because I also, I didn't come out until later in life either. And so like, for me, it feels very healing, like to go back and live it through these characters. And like, almost, I won't say it's something that I didn't know needed healed, but I don't think I realized how intensely that part of me needed healed until the show. So I feel you on that for sure. I can't
100%.
Imagine it being like, it's like set in rural Tennessee. Like I probably would lose my mind, So
it's Nick and Charlie, but can you imagine? but yeah, like, and there's a lot of that. Like the healing's a great word for it. Actually, I think healing's probably the best word for it, because I think every queer person in some way, shape, or form, even in modern day society, has probably felt something of that resistance, and it comes not even in the words. Sometimes it's in a look, or sometimes it's in just the way somebody might turn their head and just glance at you for a second. And although that's such a small moment to somebody who might maybe not be queer or maybe be queer, but to feel that like ambivalence from somebody else, that can hit so hard. And I think that healing is the magic word for that there. So many young queer people are watching this show and might not even, relate to Nick or Charlie, but can relate to the fact that, oh, this is a queer narrative that, I can feel, I can live, I can breathe that, Whereas I feel obviously that British connection, of course I do, but at the same time, like, yeah, watching them heal and also grow stronger as characters, especially in this season, is incredibly uplifting because there's so many stories, actually. Like we spoke about this.
Yeah.
There's so many queer stories which are focused on the trauma, and that's the main thing. And of course, like that can be a big part of it. That can be a big part of narrative. But to see characters grow and become stronger, I think, is the biggest pull, especially in this season, especially for me, probably Charlie. And
Yeah.
Elle, I guess, to a degree as well.
Yeah.
But especially Charlie in this season. My God. Yeah. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Healing for me is the big buzzword there. And it's so true, especially this season.
For sure. So I just wanted to talk about just overall season 3 so that we're kind of like already leaning into it a bit. But like 10 out of 10, what a fucking banger of a season. So good. It exceeded all my expectations. And I had no doubt that it would be done well, but the way that they handle the mental health of the whole season of all of them is so well done. Like with Charlie all the way around from like, he starts at a point of not being able to ask for help, and then we see him ask for help and get help and then come out on the other side and help others. Like that scene of him and Tara at his birthday party when she's panicking, like it was so well done, and it caught me off guard in the best way. And the way in which this season balances all of the heavy with the like silly, hopeful moments is like, it's such a perfect balance. I know I joked in my reactions about it being like whiplash, but you really kind of need the whiplash in order to like stay above water. And so it's just done so well.
I couldn't agree more. I think for me, I mean, I need to give props, first of all, to Joe Locke. I mean, what a year he's having right now.
Yeah,
Ashley and I speak about Agatha all along as well. We had like a long, intense text conversation about that show.
Yes.
Joe Locke is having like, and I mean, to be fair, Kit Connor as well was obviously Broadway, but like Joe Locke in particular, the way he handled this subject matter, the way he portrayed that, the way he leaned into it with such respect, such delicacy, and brought it to life so well, it was just unbelievable. Like, honestly, I take all of my hats off to him for this season. I think he really, for somebody whose first acting ever is in Heartstopper, to be able to not only deliver this, but to go above and beyond himself by stepping out of that and then going into, I know this isn't about Agatha all along, but just to talk about him as an actor, like to see that as well from him. This is a strong year for him, honestly. And, how old's Joe Locke? Like 21, 20?
21.
His career is just, he's going to soar. He's really going to soar. Honestly, I was blown away by him in this season. I knew he was going to handle this well. And he's handled everything well. Both of them have been great through the 3 seasons. But yeah, the way Joe Locke took that really sensitive, really personal subject matter too, that's affecting a lot of people, and really excelled and really, as I say, treated it with respect, brought it to life, and really internalized it in a way that I was not expecting. Beautifully done. But yeah, I agree, Ash. Like this, for me, this season was probably for me the most important season out of the 3. Now, don't get me wrong, like both seasons prior to that have really important stuff and moments in there.
Yeah.
But this season's transitional, and it reminds me of, you remember like season 3 of Buffy when, they blow up the high school and then they're leaving and they're moving on to something else in season 4?
Yeah.
That's what this is. Like a lot of the storylines in this season, we kind of got hints and clues towards throughout like the earlier 2 seasons, like the eating disorder and everything like that. This season is when it kind of paid everything off, when it kind of really said, okay, all of our cards are on the table. We're going to explore this. We're going to kind of get it out of our system in a way. We're really leaning into this now. Everything like that, and then even like, we spoke about, Charlie's eating disorder and everything like that. But then like, look at Nick, like how transitional his story was as well, how much he realized how much that, Charlie means to him as not just a boyfriend, and like, that understanding of I can't resolve everything, like I need to lean on the people around me, and like that beautiful scene he has with Haley Atwell, like on the beach. My God, that so scene is one of the best out of all 3 seasons, that scene alone.
And we were all worried about it.
We really were.
And we needn't worry.
Nope, not at all. And like Haley Atwell in that scene is talking to us as much as she is Charlie, the character. Nick, the character. She's talking to us. And I think that's
Yeah.
really pivotal, really important. And she knocked it out of the park.
Yes.
But yeah, as I was saying, like, it's transitional this season. We've taken everything, we've built it all up. We've kind of not fully worked through all the trauma and everything that's going on, but we've kind of just really put a lot more in place to support the characters. And then by the end, obviously, Nick's looking at other, opportunities to move away. Charlie's got this brand new part of his life that he's explored and kind of opened up and is really working through now. He's got a very different relationship with his parents now. So, like, it's
Yeah.
very different. We're kind of stepping into a new territory for the next season, and it's got me really excited. But honestly, hand on heart, some of the best moments from the entire show are in this season.
Yeah. And this season is delicate in a way that the other seasons weren't delicate. And I think that weighs in on like the importance of it.
Yeah.
That you touched on for sure. And I think that it can feel like it's not got as many feel-good moments just because the heavy moments are so heavy. But when you step back and look at it as a whole, I feel like there are plenty of feel-good moments still there. It's just that the heavy moments are heavier than they have been. And so that I think is clouding a lot of reviews I've seen, like not critical reviews, just like Twitter. So like no one important, but
right. It's interesting. Yeah, you bring that up because like I think the other two seasons did a lot more of like signposting and highlighting this is a positive moment. But I think this season, the maturity of this season is kind of evolved from that a little bit more where like, yeah, the heavier moments hit heavier and they are signposted a lot more and there's a lot of attention brought on that. But you kind of have to almost work out the lighter moments yourself. And I really appreciate it for that. That's great storytelling. Because when you work it out, you're like, oh, actually, this is a really good thing now. Like, as we say, like, to talk about Charlie briefly, but like Charlie's evolution to where he is at the end of the season compared to the beginning, that's a win. That's a big win. And like Nick realizing that, it's not just about him being the one person that, Charlie can rely on to fix. He realizes, oh my God, he's got this support around him. I can work with people to support Charlie and we can all get him in the most positive place that we possibly can. That's a big win. For people that are like, 16, 17, that's a massive
huge
adult thing to learn. So yeah. So again, it doesn't signpost like, that South Park thing. I learned something today. It doesn't. It's not signposting that, but you can see that. And that's the maturity of the writing and the storytelling.
Yeah, for sure. Alice is brilliant. And I think that this specific team of people is like unstoppable. They're so good. Like, I think often about like how the casting director probably feels so fucking good. After like what bangers did you choose, because they're all so good. And like you said, especially with Joe, with this being like his first ever, I mean, what an amazing start to a career to be like a hit Netflix show, a Marvel series, and a Broadway debut all before you're 21. Like, what the hell?
I mean, Joe Luck for president next, or prime minister, I guess. Like, seriously. But like in a way as well, I'm like, you bitch. Because he's just got it perfect off to a great start. It reminds me of like Emilia Clarke, who obviously played Daenerys in Game of Thrones. She left drama school and her first role was Game of Thrones. I'm like, come on. Like, come on. But you know what?
Who did you sell your soul to?
Right, exactly. And give me their number.
Yeah.
But yeah, seriously. But you know what? I'm super pleased for him because, you've probably seen this as well, Ash, because like Twitter can be a cesspool of hell.
Yep.
And some of the hate that Joe Locke's gotten for Agatha all along, like boils. I was literally talking to my husband about this like an hour before we hit record. Like, it boils my blood. It genuinely does. Because there is nothing. I mean, yes, the accent might have dipped in a little bit here and there, but for God's sake, like, he's been like acting professionally for like how long now? And it's like, by the time he's 30, that'll be a very different thing. But like, the accent was not the important part of that performance at all. Like, he could have done it in
he did a pretty good American. Like,
absolutely. Like, come on. Like, are we joking? That's the most important thing about the character in Agatha all along. But anyway, like, putting that show to one side, like, anyone who has any doubts or has any hate about Mr. Joe Locke, I just say watch season 3 of Heartstopper and then we'll have a conversation, because genuinely, no. And I don't want to just give all the flowers to obviously Joe, because Kit is amazing in this season as well. Like, Kit does some acting in this season, in his face alone, and that's like a big, big thing. But as you say, the casting director, like whoever they are, they can go on vacation for the rest of their life because all of their work is done.
You had one job and you nailed it. So
yep, you got it. You got it in one.
So I was thinking about the season as a whole and like the individual episodes, and I know what my favorite episode is, but I will say that this season is a lot harder for me to pick a least favorite. I can't land on one yet. So don't ask me yet, you guys, because I don't know. But, we do rank them for every season. So eventually I will have a least favorite. But they're all much closer than the past seasons have been for me. I feel like it's been a pretty clear favorite and least favorite for seasons 1 and 2. So I'm curious where you land. I think we probably have the same favorite episode based on the conversations we have had.
So it probably doesn't come to anyone's surprise that my favorite episode is episode 4 of the season.
Yeah.
For me, this episode does what I love in storytelling when it's done right. There's a movie called Vantage Point which does this kind of thing but does it horribly wrong. And when you get this type of thing wrong, when like you have a narrative that's been told but then you go back from another person's perspective, when you get that wrong, it really falls flat.
Yeah.
And that movie does it terribly. That's a perfect example of how not to do this. When I saw that movie in the cinema, every time it went back, people were like, "Oh my God." Whereas this episode for me, like, it's a couple of things. So obviously we've never had this kind of thing in the previous 2 seasons. Like this for me was, it was new, right? And we were like, okay, like let's roll with it. But to get all of that in one episode, like of television and tell both stories so fulfilled, to have both characters like say something different, to show the journey from different perspectives, even from the little things of like, Charlie seeing Nick down the corridor, Nick seeing Charlie from the other perspective down the corridor, like, to see that visually, but then also in the letters and in the journal entries, like absolutely genius. Sometimes it's such a hard thing to get a journal entry right because, in a book, it's very easy because you're reading it, so you're literally reading it. You're like, okay, I can see where this in TV, like that's the internalized thoughts in people's heads. So a lot of times you kind of capture that in like a facial expression, the way they reacted to a certain thing. It might linger on them a little bit longer. And then when they had the explicit journal entries, you're like, okay, this is being literal. But this was done so well.
Yeah.
The way like you saw them writing in the journals, the way that they it was a physical part of writing in the journal. Like everything they were writing, they were making physical on them. They were like body acting, and that's a different layer altogether of a performance. Like yes, actors speaking as an actor, like, voice work is one thing, being able to like express things through your body, putting them both together on stage, very, all great things. But to do that on TV and to capture it the way they did is just, it was beautifully done by everybody involved. The direction of this episode was beautiful. The flow of the episode was beautiful. Like there was no kind of moment where it felt like it was at odds or it clashed. It just flowed beautifully. And I remember the first time I watched it live, I was like, okay, so we're just doing the one diary. And then when we kind of went whoop and went back, I was like, oh no, you said the word whiplash. That was the whiplash.
Yeah.
But the best kind of way I was like, is almost pressing rewind on like the videotape and going back. Like I was like, okay, let's go. I am ready for this. As soon as like the penny drops and you understand this is what we're doing. Yeah. Like it just delivers.
So good.
So good. And I mean, again, as you said, Ash, like I agree with you. To pick like an episode I like the least is incredibly difficult at this point. I'm sure like, when we talk about other episodes and whatnot, like it'll probably become a lot clearer. Like it might rise to the surface, but it'll be very close. But episode 4 is incredibly important for all thematically what it's exploring, what it's doing for both characters, but also just in its construction is just so damn well done. My God. Like roses, props, hats off, everything.
Highly agree. Yeah, the structure really got me. Like, this was a section of the comics that I was like not sure how they were going to do because I was like, well, we've never seen them do a voiceover. So I was like, so they probably won't do a voiceover. And so then I was like a little blurry on how they were going to pull it off. And like the episode started and I heard the voiceover and I was like, oh, so we are doing a voiceover. And then I got so caught up in the emotion of like, Charlie's here now. Like he's finally going to see him and he goes to open that door and then it rewound and I was like, no, we were so close to seeing him. But then, like you said, once it clicked, like what was happening, I had like chills. I was like, oh my God, now we're going to go back to the beginning. But yeah, that episode is for sure my favorite too. I couldn't stop thinking about it for like, I mean, I still think about it, but like those first couple of days after I watched the season, I was just like constantly thinking about episode 4.
You're right, though. You're right. That's the mark of like, you know, when you watch a great season of television, but it's always the one episode that lingers in your mind. That's the one for me. It's that episode. Maybe the last episode as well, for reasons we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, that episode I come back to every time because, as I say, it's like something so new for the show, but it works so damn well. My God. Yeah. My God.
Because all the other episodes are chronological, and this one is the only one that's not, and it's just so good. It's just so good. I think maybe at this point, Love might be my second favorite, just for like all the feel good reasons.
And we need that after such heavy episodes, so that makes complete sense. Yeah.
Just to touch a little bit on like the favorite moments from the comics that we got to see, or like what I thought was like maybe the best done. We've obviously already touched on the Love can't cure mental illness. Like we were all worried about it with the lack of Sarah, and I mean, standing ovation. So well done. Also, the I love you scene is like spot on, like from page to screen. Yeah. So good. I was very excited to get the scene where Charlie gives Nick all of his jumpers back for his birthday. It's so cute. I can't explain it because I don't really know why I love this line so much, but I love whenever Nick is packing from Menorca and he's like, I think David's stolen my goggles. I think it's just because, like, why would David take the goggles? Like, it makes David would have no use for goggles. No. And so it makes me giggle every time. And I was like, I hope they leave that in. And then we got, like, the little clip of it. And I was like, yes, they're leaving in the line about the goggles.
No, absolutely.
The two bits that I was missing from the comments, like, off the top of my head, the two lines. I really, really love the panel at the summer fete whenever Nick gets into the crowd finally and he looks up at Charlie and he says, that's my boyfriend. And he has like the heart eyes, and they cut that. Yeah. I wish that they would have had it. I will take the screaming I love you, Charlie, because that was also adorable, but I really wanted that. And then the big one that I was missing is the uni chat at the very end. I wish that we had just gotten that one tiny little bit of closure on that storyline, because I feel like we don't really get any closure on Nick's university choices and him realizing that, like, he can't be everything for Charlie and Charlie can't be everything for him. And so I just wish we had gotten just that tiny little discussion there at the end. But it took absolutely nothing away from me loving the season. So
yeah, no, God, no. I'm going to build on that a second for reasons that you know what I'm about to say, Ash. Because I was like, what are we doing? You're missing me out. Yeah, I agree. So like, to build on that point a little bit, what you were just saying there, like that would have been the perfect way to end the show, because then you've got something like that would be, you know, the opening conversation to have, like in season 4. And now we haven't had that. And it's like this, it's almost a step back in a way, because, you know, they've been so truthful for each other, like all the way through this season, where they've really let their vulnerabilities be there, you know, to put everything on the table, especially like, you know, like Charlie, like opening himself up to Nick completely and saying like, this is everything. This is how I feel when I don't eat. Like, this is everything, you know, and like everything's on the table. And like Nick as well really bears his soul. Like a lot of this, like when he, you know, speaks to his aunt, which I still never get over that scene. That is beautiful for me. One of the highlights. And like bears his soul to her. And like, you know, and when she says like, that's love, darling. Beautiful. Like all of this, like, and then that one thing where he just hangs on to it. And like, it just feels like a little bit of a step back, because I think for me, the book handled it better. And I know this, I know the reasons why the show's done it. It's adding that little bit of drama. It's adding that little bit of, something, how are they going to handle that next season? But genuinely, the cherry on top of the cake, it's the one thing where if they literally just, even if Nick was just said that one line and then it faded, cut to black, that would have worked. Like anything. Yeah. Just to bleed into the next season, which we're not going to get for a long time. So that would have really kept me hanging on. But yeah, it is a shame. It feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity, that.
Yeah, and season 4 is not confirmed. So you know, like if, God forbid, something happened and we didn't get a season 4, like I would have really liked to hear, even if it's not the full discussion, but just hearing Charlie say, I just want you to be somewhere where you'll be happy.
Yeah.
Like just hearing that would have been enough.
Yeah.
And because like if this is it and that's where it ends, that's like a little rocky for me.
Yeah.
I'm obviously team let's manifest season 4, so it's gonna happen.
We're putting it out there. We're doing all of the relevant dances, getting the energy out there, like to Alice O's when it's gonna happen. And I think she's probably game for it. It's just more like sorting out the contracts with Netflix and whatnot.
Right. Exactly.
But to get to my point about that episode, so when I was reading the graphic novel for the first time, and I saw when they were on their little road trip and they were visiting universities, when I saw that they went to Durham University, when I say I did a backflip, I am not joking, and I can't backflip. Like, honestly, like in my chair, I was like, as I said to you, actually, like, Durham is my city, like in the northeast of England. Like when people ask me where I'm from in England, I usually say Newcastle because people may have heard of it. Durham's not as well known. So to have like that was like, it was almost like it was a wink and a nudge. It's not a wink and a nudge to me, but it felt like that, you know, and to have that taken out, I was like, God damn it. Especially like when they went to Leeds, I was like, okay, we're building up to it now. Because again, like I know Leeds very well, like, you know, another city which is like further north from London and where they're from. I know that city. And I was like, okay, we're going to do it. Oh, no, we're not. And you know, whatever, but I will not forgive them for that. But I do love, but I did love like the moment of like going into the pharmacy. This all played out exactly the same, like, you know, buying like, buying all of that. I love like, you know, literally that is handled perfectly in the graphic novel. I'm sure it's mentioned as Boots. That's the big chain in the UK. Whereas this, it was like general pharmacy in the store, which made me laugh. But one of the big things for me was I was intrigued, and not to sound in a perverted way, but I was intrigued how they were going to handle the sex scenes. Because they are done very particular in the graphic novel. And I say they because it's not just one, obviously. And, you know, like a lot of it is just like panels of like just them looking at each other, rolling around. You see like, you know, the movement of a blanket or something. So I was really intrigued of how they were going to handle that. And I think the way they did it was excellent. And it's not exactly the same, but I think the way they did it was meaningful for what we saw on screen. And all of that transition of like, you know, Charlie saying, oh, is it okay that I kept my shirt on? To then when we see later on that he just takes his shirt off and it's not a question, he just does it. We see, you know, the moment with like, you know, the scars, like just all of that was just handled so beautifully. And I think that for me is like an example of something that's in the graphic novel that was really elevated in the show. And I think that was handled beautifully. Yeah.
And I love that it is like, it's a very similar vibe to what we get in the books, but it's also at least the second one is like a parallel to the end of their time in Paris when we get to see them and sleeping in all the different positions. And then we get to see them kind of in all the different positions during that scene too. And so the way that they tied the books and the show together with such a neat little bow for that was just chef's kiss.
Yeah, honestly, beautiful. Oh man, just doing this, I'm excited to talk about episodes now with you. Like properly.
I know. I'm so excited. It's like November the 1st, so it's almost been a full month since it's been out, and I've been just like dying, just like biting my nails. Like I cannot wait to talk about this season. So I'm very excited that we're getting started. I do want to do, so at the end of every season, we usually do an episode about the music, and we go through the soundtrack song by song, and we go through it. I want to do an extra episode this season where I want to watch the entire series, and I want to tie together all the scenes where they reuse the score in season 3 and talk about like the original scene and how it all ties together. And I don't really have like a lot of words about this right now. It's just something that I can't stop thinking about doing. Because the music, the use of the score has always been good, but the way that they used it in this season is like just the next level. It's just one step further, and it's so good the way it ties when those notes start, and you can feel the feelings that you felt in season 1 when you first heard those notes, and then you're watching them in season 3. Like, oh, I need to do a whole episode about it.
Honestly, they do some beautiful things with the score in this. Like, I will keep mentioning this scene, but I don't give a crap. Like when Nick is talking to his aunt on the beach, and like the way like you start off with the sound of the ocean and then it blends into the score, like it's just genius. And when Haley Atwell just says the line, "Sometimes you can't," and the way the score lingers, like, oh my God, it's like that. As I said, like that for me, that scene is one of the most important of the entire series. And it's funny because in an interview, Kit
Yes.
Connor even said, he was like, "Oh, I thought I was terrible in that scene." And
I
I'm
know. I was
like,
like, what?
what?
You shut your modest little mouth,
Exactly.
sir.
If that is terrible, if that's terrible, like, way to give yourself a backhanded compliment. But no, genuinely, like, I mean, I adore Haley Atwell as it is. Like, I adore that woman. I have like, top 5 British actors or actresses that I could work with. Like Benedict Cumberbatch obviously is up there
Yeah.
after the story I shared with you. But like Haley Atwell's there as well. Like, she is incredible. And this show for me just showed up how great she is. So yeah. But yeah, the score in that particular scene is stunning. And their use of music in this is great. I always appreciate when they lean into British artists. That always hits right with me. And yeah, I mean, do we want to talk about a few?
Yeah, let's do it.
So like, actually, I text you about this straight away. Like the use of Tom Odell. I don't know if you knew Tom Odell prior to.
I did not.
Okay. So like, yeah, I mean, he's one of those artists where like in the UK, he's, pretty well known. For those of you who might not know, Tom Odell, yeah, obviously like a pianist, very like acoustic vibes, has not really like bops per se, but like I guess more kind of like emotional kind of coffee shop vibes, music, very autumn sounds. But when I heard them use the song Black Friday, like I text Ashley immediately, I was like, that song is like special to me. So to hear that in the show, I was like, oh my God, okay. Like just when I thought my emotional like level was like hit, they then throw that on top of me. For those of you that may not listen to the full song, go and listen to it. There's a beautiful live version of that song, which Tom Odell does with like a choir, and it is stunning.
Oh, I bet.
I'll send you a link to it after this. It's genuinely jaw-dropping. As well, like Best Day of My Life, like that song as well, great.
So good.
So good. The use of Birdie as well, like in this, oh my God. So like, again, like, Birdie, like people might know her from Skinny Lover, and like that was a big hit. But just to hear like these songs as well, I was like, oh my God, wow. Like we're really leaning into, I mean, Birdie is, pretty big, probably more well known than Tom Odell, but like some deep cuts as well. And that's what I like about this like show. It's like, it's not just going for like, yes, we have Troye Sivan. Like, of course, we have like some of the more well-known songs, but I like when they lean into like those deeper cuts, and that really hits true for me. Like as Alice Oseman puts together the official playlist, and we saw some Aurora tracks in there, and obviously Ashley and I had a big chat about that because big fan here. But I love that the show is understood alongside music, like, and you can tell, like, even just that playlist alone that Alice put together, and then the music in this show, you can tell it's written with music. It's almost like she is writing and designing the books whilst listening to music, and it just flows. You can tell she's probably constructed scenes with songs in mind, and that really shows. You can always tell sometimes when you watch a movie or a TV show and then they've thrown a song in, you think, okay, yeah, it's a fun song, that's why it's in there. But when a scene or, you watch something and music has been incorporated or thought about in a particular way, it hits very differently, and this hits beautifully.
Yeah. And I know that Alice mentioned recently, I don't know, maybe on Tumblr, I don't remember where they said it, but they actually were able to like give input and choose songs this season.
Oh, yeah?
So they actually picked some of the music that made it in. And I'm so curious to know like which songs and like which scenes like she had a specific song in mind for. And kind of like what you said, where sometimes it's like, I don't know. I kind of felt that way a little bit about the Muna song. Like, as much as I was so excited to get Muna, because, like, since season 1, I've been like, Muna. But I think that I'm a little shaky on what they landed with, because it's, like, the one that got away, which is a great song, and I love it, but I'm just not sure that it quite fit with the scene. Like, it plays at the zoo.
Right.
So like it really, I guess, doesn't matter, and I'm probably thinking too hard about it. They just wanted like a fun transitional song. But I was like, I think there could have been other Muna songs that might have fit better. But, we'll take it. I obviously lost my damn mind whenever it started. I was distracted at first. I was not listening to the music because I was watching them all be so cute. And then once you can see it in my reaction when it clicks, this is Muna. And then I just lose my mind. But I also love that we start the season out with Biba Doobie after having so many staple Biba Doobie moments in the past seasons. And it was so good with Tori. It fit the vibe perfectly. And then the other one that really stuck out to me was the Arlo Parks song plays when Elle is dancing and Tao's watching, and then they have their little sexy moment. I was like, we everybody avert your eyes. We are intruding on this moment. It was spicy. So I thought that was such a good song too, and it was just perfect for that scene, which I'm gonna say in every episode from here on out because I feel like that's all I ever say about the music. But those were the ones that really stuck out, and we only got one Baby Queen song this entire season, which was on the low end, but then it's also how they can only use so many songs. Right. But I think that, using the one that they used where they used it was perfectly placed.
And it's great when that happens in media, right? You think about one of the biggest songs last year was Running Up That Hill, and it made sense. The way it was used in Stranger Things, amazing. Even go to something like 13 Reasons Why and The Night We Met, that, the way that song is used. When you think of that scene, did you watch 13 Reasons Why, Ash?
I didn't finish it.
Okay. But obviously, you might have seen it in, pop culture, but when they come together in the dance and you hear The Night We Met playing, it's it's a beautiful piece of music. Dylan Minnette chose that song for that scene, the actor who's in the show.
Love it.
Yeah, and I love that. That's what I mean. When somebody understands how powerful music can be in a particular scene, and you can tell Alice has clearly done that with, with this in mind. And as I say, a little bit what we were saying earlier, you know why they've used Rush by Troye Sivan. You know why they've used Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo. You know why these songs happen. And they're fun, don't get me wrong. But when those other songs really hit in the moment, when, as I say, when Black Friday started playing, I was levitating off my chair, watching, I was literally this is everything coming together now, and it just works so well.
Yeah. I'm excited to get into this season with you and to get into the real meat of it all. So I'm very, very excited. Before we leave, let's talk about where people can find you, where, the other projects that you do.
Sure. So if you want to follow me personally, I am at Straughan87 on all social media. So that's STRAUGHAN 87. Because sometimes people don't know how to spell my surname. But yeah, so you can follow me everywhere there. I do have two podcasts. I have one called Into You Podcast, which is a deep dive into some interesting guests, which I have on there talking to people like musicians, to doctors, to writers, and just talking about how they, got to where they are. So it's really interesting, that one. I really like it. That's called Into You Podcast. Again, on all social medias, Into You Podcast, you'll find it on there. The other one I have is more media-based, so a little bit more closer to this one. It's called Last Week On, where we cover basically movies, TV shows, some video games on there, some books. And that's more we covered all of Invincible, the animated show, which I absolutely adore. We covered all of The Last of Us. There's different movies we covered on there. Good. Yeah, absolutely. The Butterfly Effect we covered on there. We've done many different movies as well. So that's more media based, kind of more probably sits alongside this one a little bit closer. But yeah, that's called Last Week On. Again, on all socials, that is that. So yeah, so come and check me out on there.
Awesome. I guess that just about wraps us up for today. Hopefully we will be back to a bi-weekly schedule once our episode for Love airs. So follow us online for more announcements on the release schedule and all of that stuff as we get into it. We are at Why Are We Cast on all platforms. And until next time, bye.
Bye.